Welcome to the spirit world, answering your questions on angels, demons, and how the spiritual and physical worlds interact. And now your hosts, Debbie Georgianni and Adam Blai.
Well, hello there, and welcome to the Spirit World. I am Debbie Georgianni with religious demonologist and co-host Adam Blai, and definitely you today. This is a bonus open forum for Labor Day. That's right. So if you are celebrating with friends and family members, please join us for this open forum from around the world where you can ask questions about angels, demons, anything in between, anything that's on your mind or heart. We are letting you lead the show with the topics that you bring to the table. So start calling right away. We don't have a teaching planned. That's the beauty of open forums. So we do need to hear from you. I'm going to give the number and then we will begin with prayer. 877-757-9424. That's 877-757-9424. And Adam, please, the St. Michael prayer.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. St. Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. So this bonus Labor Day open forum is just a wonderful way to celebrate with our Spirit World listeners and followers. And Adam and I are going to chat a little bit just to catch up because the whole entire Guadalupe, well, pretty much the whole entire Guadalupe Radio Network staff, we all just got back from the EWTN radio conference this year in McLean, Virginia. Oh, it was beautiful. The weather was gorgeous. Everything was amazing. Being with all the other affiliates. Oh, it was with all the hugs and the cheers. People were getting awards for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and Guadalupe Radio Network got the 25-year award. We were just all celebrating. It was an amazing experience. And then the family celebration that's going on this weekend, which is just so powerful when everyone comes together, loving Catholic radio. I think the best part was when we all got together after all of the dinner and the awards, and we had Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, Dr. Ray Guarendi, Teresa Tomeo, Johnette Williams. I mean, it goes on and on. I mean, everyone just came together and just shared the beauty of having Catholic radio. Oh, Adam, you did miss a great event.
Oh, I'm sorry I missed it, but I had a big project. I've mentioned, wrapping up the most recent book. And praise be to God, got the writing done. I'm going to do one more read through, just myself to tidy up a few things and then pass it on to the editor. So it was one of those like 5 days straight, 8 to 12 hours a day. Just get up and write, fall asleep, get up and write, and that's the way I prefer to do things. And just thank you, God, for the inspiration. I hope. And so I'm sorry I missed it, but I'm really happy for everybody that was able to be there.
Yeah, it was incredible. And also, too, I wanted to share that we have our class coming up September 2nd, Angels and Demons class with the GRN Academy. There's still time for you to sign up. I think we have like 40 students. It's amazing. It's just a big, big class. So if you still want to sign up, we're going to share more about the books and things of that nature, and just diving deeply into angels and demons and the history of the holy angels. I mean, it's just incredible the things we're going to get to cover as in the 7-week course. So if you'd like to join us, and you can join us anywhere from the world because it's a virtual classroom, we love that. So please just go. You have to go quickly though this weekend, grnonline.com/academy. And there are other classes there as well that are still taking registration. So please pick a class you like, sign up for it, and you won't regret it. Okay. grnonline.com/academy. We are starting to get calls coming in, Adam, and I just wanted to let our Spirit World listeners that I bring the prayer book out last week when the shooting took place in Minneapolis. And so believe me when I tell you this, folks, if you're listening to Catholic radio, we believe in the power of prayer. And so we definitely are keeping everyone in prayer. There, the families, the victims, all of the first responders, all of the things that are happening by way of the investigation and things. We are keeping everyone in prayer. So please know that we believe in the power of prayer. But Adam, before we get to the phones, let me give the number. I got so much to share. 877-757-9424. My plane was delayed yesterday. Quick story. Plane was delayed yesterday, and I got on this very unique flight that wasn't really on the monitors. And I got to sit next to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for 4.5 hours. I was sitting next to him on the plane. So it was a very, very special encounter and treat. But the main part about sitting next to our RFK Jr. was that when the plane was taken off, of course, everybody probably knows this if you've ever traveled with me, I immediately make the sign of the cross. As soon as I made the sign of the cross, he made the sign of the cross. So I thought that was it's so beautiful to be Catholic.
Wow. That's really, it's interesting. It's when you meet people that are working at that level, in the world, in our country, it's always kind of a treat, and it's a little surreal, but also it's neat to meet people and realize like we're all just human beings.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He was very warm, very courteous, and he did not stop working for 4 hours straight. Did not take a breath for 4 hours straight. He did not lift his head from the papers he was working on. He was nonstop working.
I bet.
Yeah,
wow.
It's amazing. It's amazing. But anyway, so that was a very interesting journey. You can hear that my voice is a little scratchy, and I'm so sorry to all the wonderful chat groups on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X, Rumble, TikTok, and Twitch. Guys, please get the chats going. Put your comments there, and just know that I love to wave to everyone. I'm actually kind of sick, but I didn't want to make this a recorded show because we love being with our Spirit World listeners on the holidays, right, Adam? We've made it a point to be with them on the holidays, and we are determined to do that. So if you are celebrating with family and friends in this long holiday weekend for Labor Day, please stop what you're doing. And call in, because we've got Lori and Carol ready and willing and able to answer the calls. Senior producer Tim Mott is at the controls, and the number to dial is 877-757-9424. Okay, we're only going to take 2 breaks today, so we're going to try to get to as many calls as possible. And Adam, unless there's anything more you want to share, you ready to turn our attention to our wonderful Spirit World callers?
Yes, absolutely. Let's go.
Okay. So first up will be Elizabeth. Is Elizabeth? Okay, Elizabeth in L.A. and in the great state of California on YouTube. We would wave to you, Elizabeth, but I'm under the weather. But welcome to the Spirit World.
Hi, I'm so sorry. I hope you feel better soon.
Thank you. You go right ahead.
So I've called in the past. I am an ex-New Ager, and I just wanted to see what Adam thinks about this. So ever since when I would speak to mediums, my grandmother's, well, I know it's not her, but she would never come through, and that was always a thorn in my side. That was also another reason why I thought, I don't think this is a good idea. So I would always ask, and I would say, is she here? Can she tell me what happened to her when she was born? And that would never happen. And so, long story short, when my grandmother was an infant, this is 1910, so no modern technology, she almost died of severe pneumonia. And the doctor said, I'm so sorry, the baby's not going to last. She's going to be, through the night, she'll be dead by the morning. So my great-grandmother was just beside herself. And my grandmother was the youngest, and her brother went upstairs to go check on her. And as he was going upstairs, this lady passed him, and he described her his whole life, this beautiful lady. She looks like a nun, and he just thought, I wonder why she was in my little sister's room. So he goes up and he checks on her, and my grandmother is miraculously healed. She's totally fine. He was shocked, and he was looking for the lady. So he runs downstairs to my great-grandmother, and he says, Mom, the baby's fine. And she's thinking, oh, okay, I think how could she be fine? So he said, the lady, did you see the lady? Where'd she go? And she said, I don't know what you're talking about. So he said, come check the baby. So they did. My grandmother's totally fine. My great-grandmother was shocked. And so the doctors came back, and they said, it's a miracle. She's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with her. And he kept saying, the lady, she was beautiful, and she looked like a nun. And we believe, and the story was throughout our whole family, my grandmother lived a very healthy life. She was 95 years old when she passed. And we believe it was the Blessed Mother. And so my grandmother was very devoted to her. She said the rosary every night. And so and what I deduced from this, do you feel that because she was especially, I guess you could say, anointed since birth, and she was so devoted that the demons couldn't even try to impersonate her?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So, I mean, first off, there are stories like this of heavenly figures appearing and doing healings. It made me wonder, Elizabeth, was your great-grandmother praying the rosary at the time? Did she have a devotion to a female saint, that was religious, perhaps? Maybe it was a religious, maybe it was Therese, for instance. But it could have been Mary. This has happened a number of times. And I guess that would be the question, is who she was praying to and interceding to. But that's really beautiful that it was your family was allowed to have that story of the woman being seen, as opposed to just a healing happened and we wonder. It's kind of beautiful that the family story was there.
Yeah, well, they were from Italy, so she was very devoted. I believe she was very devoted to Santa Maria, pretty much. And then when my grandmother definitely was, just because we all believe that it was her. And her brother would just tell the story that he said, I swear on my life, he said she was so beautiful too.
Mm-hmm. So the question about, when mediums claim that a spirit is quote unquote coming through or whatever and communicating. Of course we understand, I'm not being mean, but those are demons, and that's not just, that's based on a lot of experience and talking with people that have gotten into trouble with these things. Because, God's not going to send a saint to do that, and a soul in purgatory is not going to do that, because mediumship is strongly forbidden in the Bible. So, why might they not be able to do a sham of her? Could be any number of reasons, but I can tell you that when it comes to, like when we're in exorcisms and the demon's in a body right there and you don't have to wonder what's going on. For instance, I have a particular rosary that I really like and always have with me. And during the sessions, I'll actually be holding it while I'm, kind of having to wrestle with the person and keep them from hurting us and things like that. It's not the person, it's the demon. And they have a number of times gotten a hold of the rosary and said, I'm going to break it, I'm going to break it. And then they stop and they've looked up at the statue of Mary in the church and turned and placed the rosary in my hand.
Wow.
That's happened a number of times. And there's been one time where they looked towards the statue of Mary and said, all right, and like handed it back to me. So Mary does put the brakes on them with certain things. And if Mary had a particular patronage for your grandmother, it's possible. Yeah, it's possible. We'll never know for sure. But it is possible, and Mary has that authority. She's the Queen of Heaven. She's the Queen of Angels. So she very well could do that.
Yeah, I thought about it, and I said, I bet you that's probably what it is, because it was just always, she would, well, I know it's not her, but she would never come through. And I said, I bet you because of that, and because she was so devoted. So it's just like, we're not even going to try to pretend to be this one. So
yeah, it's very possible. Yep.
Yeah, but that was always something that was one of the reasons why I just thought I this isn't good. I don't think this is good. I need to stop doing it. And there were many reasons, but that was one of it as well.
Well, another hypothesis, Elizabeth, is that your great-grandmother was praying for you in heaven.
Could be.
And
Could be.
when you were wrapped up in the New Age, if she's made it to heaven, and let's assume that she's done purgatory, she would be praying for you, and she'd be praying for you to come out of the New Age stuff. And so it could have been her intercession that made that impossible, because if you say that was one of the things that tipped you off and made you leave, I would kind of link it with her and say it was probably her intercession that got you out of it.
I would think so. I definitely could see that my grandmother, and although I never met her mother, I could see them definitely being very much against what I was doing, even though I thought it was good. But a lot of people do, unfortunately.
Yep. Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much.
Yes, call us again. You are just a valued member of the Spirit World family, so we appreciate it. So God bless you. Have a beautiful Labor Day weekend, and we're going to continue with this open forum, bonus open forum. Seamus is up next, and we're so glad. And then you can join the conversation. Elizabeth's going to free that phone line at 877-757-9424. You can ask any question, anything that's on your mind or heart. If you want something that you want us to pray for, please call in. We'd love to hear from you at 877-757-9424, and we'll be right back.
The Spirit World continues with Debbie Georgianni and Adam Blai. If you have a question for the show, call 877-757-9424 or email tsw@grnonline.com.
This is our bonus edition of the Open Forum for August, and we are so excited to be with you live on this Labor Day weekend. That's right, we are live today. So I know that the EWTN family celebration is happening right now, and some are tuning in for that. That is wonderful, but we are also live today, too. If you have something to share, you can call in. So there are open phone lines. We'll get to Seamus next in just a moment. Wanted to thank everybody on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X, Rumble, TikTok, Twitch. Thank you so much. Put your comments or your questions in the chats there, and our show team will pick them up and send them to us. Tim and Lori and Carol are doing a great job. But we'd love to hear your voice on this Labor Day weekend. And, it was interesting. I was talking about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and how he was just working unbelievably without a break for 4.5 hours on the plane. And, on this Labor Day weekend, Adam, we really do honor all that great work that everyone has done, right? That everyone throughout the time here in the U.S. and in Canada and other surrounding countries, and it's just so amazing the productive work and what work, the fruits of that. What it lasts into the world as a legacy. I just think it's amazing. Work is good, folks. Work is good. And Adam and I are determined to share that. And Adam was on a intense writing spree this week. And so I'm sure, Adam, you feel very, you feel like you got a lot accomplished. And so work is good. Okay, let's hear what Seamus has to say in Charleston, South Carolina. And Seamus, I believe you're listening online. Welcome to the Spirit World.
Hey, thanks for having me. Big fan of the work Adam's done. Been following his work for a long time, and love his, common sense, social science approach to things. And he's very level-headed, and I'm a big fan of his work. I guess this question is about work. I entered the service, got my commission in about 2012, and spent some time in kind of the counterterrorism community and the research side of things, and I was a fairly lukewarm Catholic at the time. And, obviously really didn't know a lot about this stuff and had encountered what ended up, bringing me back to the faith, a lot of occultism in certain circles of defense and intelligence and stuff. And I'm not saying this to be alarmist or say that, they run the show, because I really don't think that's the case. But there's definitely a growing element in some of these power hubs. I've encountered it. It's kind of scary. And I'm just wondering, for the civil servants that are dealing with that stuff, I understand that this ministry is kind of resurged in the last 20 years. And so what are we going to do to kind of counter some of that influence in media and other places? And again, I'm not saying they run the show or anything, but it is a little disheartening to see, some of these groups and some of the ways I saw them operate, in power hubs. It's a little overwhelming, and I haven't really gotten a straight answer from the church on what, as Americans, our best way forward with that is at this point.
Yeah. There's no simple answer, of course. I've not worked in those areas, but I have friends that have, at fairly high levels that are retired now. My sense of it is that there are good and bad people, in those areas, just like there's good and bad people all over the place. What can we do about 100%. It? Yeah, what can we do about it? I think in terms of that kind of influence, I'm thinking of a situation I can't give the details about, but it ended up interfacing with law enforcement at a federal level. And I was really encouraged to find out that, the main person involved was Catholic and was very, very faithful. But I know, I've heard stories and I've come across threads, that indicate some people involved in some not so good things are out there. Obviously, we pray for people. The decision makers that are above troublesome people. So there was one pretty famous Satanist, I'm not going to give his name, who was in the Army intelligence, and as far as I know, got removed because people at the White House level were asking questions and consulted an exorcist, he's passed on now, who advised them, get rid of this guy. And they did. They cleaned it up. So it's kind of a matter of, I think, Seamus, of the people above these troublesome people have to take action. A lot of these people are appointed, they're not elected. So it's not like you can go out and lobby against them and campaign against them and try to reveal these problems. They're appointed. And so, ultimately God has to help the nation. And God has to put the right people at the higher levels to be able to clean things up. I know it's a rabbit hole to go down, but in a sense, I think some of the stuff that's been coming to light in recent years, sadly, in terms of, the child trafficking and things like that, the sex trafficking.
They're definitely, I operated in that space a little bit. It's an issue, and I don't know. There's great people doing good things. Like you said, it's they like to overplay their power, and we run everything. Yeah. They don't run everything. That's not true. I wouldn't be here if that was the case. And I just, what I hope, guys like you can do in the church is, get the voice of the bishops to, kind of rally good people to start to, get in these realms of service. Cause, I'm not saying we're outmaneuvered at all. There's mainly good people in these realms, but it is a problem that's growing, and these guys, really don't play by the rules that we have to play by. So it's, I'm hoping, I got caught in that crossfire a little bit. It was pretty hellish for a lot of years. And I'm hoping that, with this new Pope and some of these bishops paying attention that, they can do something about it.
Well, and the reason I gave the example I did, I can't give the details, but the situation where at the White House level, and this was many years ago, they reached out to an exorcist and asked questions, and that person was well known and known to be level-headed, I believe. And so sometimes, Seamus, it's these private moments that aren't so much public, where I think if we have, as you say, level-headed, reasonable people for the government to reach out to if they so choose and ask for that advice, those conversations They can happen and have a big influence, but it's not, it's not something that's seen. It's something that's done kind of, not discreet is the wrong word, but yeah, so I would say number one, prayer, and number two, I think we need to offer competent, reasonable, well-informed resources if we're asked. I think that's one thing the church can do. The church can't go fire people or tell them who to hire. But if they want to ask questions about spiritual warfare or people that are involved in the dark side of things, we need to be able to offer that expertise. So
and
I think
then
that's
one more
it.
question, one more on that. I think that's awesome. I'm on some of these groups' radar a little bit to a certain degree. I deal with it once in a while. It's kind of chilled out. I've had to go through, getting advice from different people in the church. And generally I've had a very good experience with the clergy, but, at times in ministry, there's people that aren't level-headed. I think that are getting their information from the internet or something that they're just not the best actors. And it caused me a lot of trouble for a long time. It was not great. But I'm wondering, there's more people like me than you would think that are, caught up. I'm going to be dealing with this the rest of my life. What advice do you have for us, for who we're listening to in the church, and, how we not get too prideful and step out of our bounds and stuff? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So one thing that's important to understand is not every priest is trained in spiritual warfare. There's very little of this taught in seminary. I teach in seminaries. We do kind of 1 day or 2 or 3 day kind of workshop type things. But really, for most priests, they've had little to no exposure to this. And so they, like everybody else, have the few books that are out there that are authoritative. They have a few people that are trusted. They might go watch their videos. But that's not the same as a deep exposure and experience. I'm not bragging about myself, but after all these years and looking into so many cases, I got a whole library of information on all kinds of things that I've had to look into piece by piece to work on different situations. So again, I think the church has a few experts on this, and most of them are priests. And they're not well known to the public. They're not necessarily the ones that you hear about or that are putting out YouTube videos and things like this. So again, I think, the rank and file parish priest isn't necessarily going to be the expert. They might know some about it, but they're not. They're probably not going to be the expert. And who do you reach out to? I think the bishops. One good thing they can do is they can direct somebody to who the really qualified people are within the church. For instance, the Leo XIII Institute in Chicago is an excellent school that the USCCB has been very supportive of, and it's kind of the official school for training exorcists. And there's a number of guys connected with that know a ton. And they're a good resource, but they're not known to the public. So my advice would be, unfortunately, don't rely on the local priest necessarily. Somebody would need to reach out and find the internal experts.
Awesome. Hey, and if you could keep me and my family in your prayers, everything's good, we're all good, but I got kind of thrown to the wolves a little bit, and got on some people's radars. It's chilled out. It's good. God has really been wonderful, and it's brought my family and myself, closer to our faith and stuff. So I just appreciate you guys keeping us in your prayers.
Absolutely. Sure. Seamus, I put you in the prayer book. You and your family, lean on your guardian angel, okay, during these times. Very important. Thank you so much for calling in today on this open forum. We appreciate it. Please call us again. And I know you put a smile on Adam's face with those kind words, so thank you. Okay, we do have an open phone line if you'd like to call in about anything that's on your mind or heart this Labor Day weekend. We are live this weekend, so this is not a recorded show. So please call us. We'd love to be with the Spirit World listeners at 877-757-9424. And we had a question that came in a couple weeks ago. I'm going to ask Adam about psychic mediums being brought in to solve crime cases. when we come back on the Spirit World Open Forum. 877-757-9424. Hurry, pick up that phone, call us. We're waiting for you.
The Spirit World continues with Debbie Georgianni and Adam Blai. If you have a question for the show, call 877-757-9424 or email tsw@grnonline.com.
Okay, this is our live open forum bonus edition for Labor Day, and we do have calls coming in, especially from our social media groups, and we're so happy that you guys are staying with us on this beautiful weekend. So we'll get to those calls in just a moment, but I do have a question for Adam. If you'd like to call in, though, and if you're listening, you hear the sound of our voices. We are live. We are taking calls this weekend, so please dial in 877-757-9424, 877-757-9424. You bring the topics to the table this weekend on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X, Rumble, TikTok, and Twitch. Okay, Adam, so I heard recently, now this has been going on for many years, but recently there's been a new interest of bringing in psychic mediums to solve crime cases. What do you think about that? They're having some really good success, and that's disturbing because obviously, based on what we've been taught about this and the occult, that this is the way the demons trick people into believing that it is true, that they can tell all these things and see all these things in the other world, and now they're being brought in to solve murder mysteries and all these kinds of things, and they're having success, and so now people are giving it this stamp of approval. What do you say to all this?
Well, I guess first off, Deb, over the years I've heard these kind of rumors at different times, and when you actually find somebody who asked the actual police department that supposedly did this, whether they used them or whether they were useful. So far, I've never come across anyone that was verified as actually having happened. Now, it is possible that if somebody's mixed up in the occult, that they could get information from the demons about a crime and something that happened. I mean, they know our kind of like our sinful history, our secret sins. They like to bring that stuff up at exorcisms. Clearly, the person there who's possessed wasn't there to witness those things, and they'll bring up very specific things. So they do have knowledge of hidden events, hidden information. That's what occult means, is hidden. And that's one of the signs of possession, of true possession, is having hidden knowledge of hidden things. So it is possible. And of course, the danger would be, that doesn't mean it's good. If it is working and people are like, oh, well, this means this is valid and good. It doesn't mean it's good. It may work, but that doesn't mean it's wise to do it, because you're basically taking a favor from the devil.
Right. That's what I mean. But that's what I'm saying. People are feeling that it's a legitimate source to go to solve these mysteries, these murder mysteries that have gone on for, 15, 20 years. Nobody, people have died. People have moved on. They don't have the information. Evidence was tampered with. And so now these psychic mediums come in and they point to where the body, where the body was buried, and this has happened. And all of a sudden they're like, wow, this is an interesting field that we know nothing about. So to me, that's the demons, are using this. They're great opportunists. They're using this as a way to legitimize this practice.
Yeah, basically, I could see that happening. Now, the question would be, if it truly is, quote unquote, working better recently, and these stories are coming out there, that means God's allowing it for some reason. I do think that the demonic has become more open in, say, the last 10 years. Things are more explicitly satanic and demonic in terms of movies and rituals and other things like that coming out in the media. I won't get into details, but I know there's people involved in the occult and Satanism that are linked to Hollywood and are involved in some of these projects and providing consulting to them, even to some companies. You'd be surprised to hear that they would be taking that kind of consultation. So there certainly is a boldness with the demonic. I think that in a sense they don't care so much anymore because people are no longer kind of by default horrified and,
They're not
rejecting of them.
Yeah.
And so they kind of don't care in the sense that, 50 years ago, if they had kind of shown themselves in these ways, people would have been aghast and said, that's awful, let's get away from that. But now there's kind of this religious neutrality of like, there is no, everything's postmodern. It's all your opinion and that's what creates the world, and that's not reality. So I think go ahead.
I will tell you, it's diabolical genius for them to, put themselves in the investigative side of things to solve mysteries that people have been so traumatized by when they lost a loved one. So they're in the very vulnerable stage, and so they'll turn to these psychics and think, wow, this person brought me relief. So now it became a good thing. So I think it's to me, Adam, this is a reminder that we need a solid catechesis in this area. This is why you and I are committed to doing this show and the other work that we're doing with the Academy, with the Angels and Demons class, and also what we're doing with Unfiltered on Stand Tall. We're trying our hardest to get the word out there so people can be better equipped spiritually, not to fall for these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because there is less catechesis, and unfortunately, if you haven't learned these things, in church or coming up through your family, people learn from the screen. And the small screen is powerful. The big screen historically has had a huge impact on culture.
Yeah.
So we do need to counter that with real information.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to say hello to Christopher. Christopher's in Seattle, Washington on Facebook. And Christopher, we wanted to say hello to you, but you may have to hang with us through the break. So hi, Christopher. Welcome to the Spirit World.
Thank you.
Go right ahead, sir.
Just exactly what he's talking about. I've really been wondering about all the horror movies that are out. If I watch one, not that I'm really into that, is that going to bring a negative demon into my environment?
No, not necessarily, Christopher. The danger in these movies is twofold. One, they put horrible, shocking, and traumatic images in our mind and in our memory. And, some of them are so graphic and awful that, in a sense, it's like a mild PTSD. I'm aware of some movies that are just so disgusting and horrible, like it's upsetting just to remember them and think about them. I didn't watch them, but I've been briefed on them. So number one, it's not healthy to put these things into your memory and your mind. It's traumatic to the system. The biggest danger, Christopher, is it kind of normalizes the demonic and often tries to paint them as sympathetic figures or neutral figures, and tries to show that magic is good and people that don't do magic are bad. And I'm not picking specifically on Harry Potter, but they're a great example of this, where in those stories, the people doing magic are basically the cool kids, and the muggles, meaning the boring normal people, are buffoons. And it kind of sets this expectation up, that magic is cool to play with and it makes you special and makes you cool. So I think that's really the danger, is it normalizes things and it paints the demons as sympathetic figures. And if you're younger and coming up and that's your education, you're more likely to fall for these things later.
Okay. I just don't want any negativity coming into my environment, and I have not been watching these. But then there's certain ones that are historic, and I thought, well, I might want to watch that, but then I just don't want to bring any negativity into my environment.
Yeah, it's not going to cause, an evil spirit to enter your home to watch these things, particularly if you're doing it as research. But again, the fascination is the danger.
Right. Thank you so much, Christopher, for weighing in on this open forum for the Labor Day special. We appreciate it. Call us anytime. We're always here for you guys. That's why we love the Spirit World listeners and followers. More of your questions and calls when we come back for this final segment of the Spirit World. Please join us. If you have something you want to share, now is the time to call in at 877-757-9424. You can always email us at tsw@grnonline.com. And don't forget to go to the Academy and sign up for the class that's coming up on Tuesday, Angels and Demons. All right, we'll be right back.
The St. John Leadership Network presents Glance at the Gospel with Father Nathan Cromley.
Doing what's right, even when it's not popular, is one of the biggest challenges of Christianity. In this Sunday's Gospel, Jesus confronts popular and successful people with the truth that the fact that other people approve of what they do doesn't mean that they are doing what is right. And he invites them to look at their lives from a different perspective. Isn't that a challenge for us today as well? How easy it is for us to replace God's judgment with the judgment of others. What society says we can do and can say, instead of what God teaches us about the truth of marriage and the truth of the life of every human being. Isn't it paradoxical how a religion of law and rule and truth bequeaths freedom and courage, innovation and creativity? When we allow God's judgment to be the truth about our life, we open ourselves to God's perspective about how we should live. And this perspective is infinitely better than anything that the world can offer. This is why Jesus says in today's gospel that when we are invited by someone to a wedding banquet, and we can understand thereby any kind of societal honor, he says, go and take the lowest place. And later on, he'll say, instead of hosting lunches or dinners only for those who are wealthy and able to repay you, invite those who are crippled, lame, and blind. Blessed will you be because of their inability to repay you. Christ, in other words, is giving us a whole new standard by which to judge our lives. And instead of how the world looks and approves of us, how Jesus and God approve of us. So where does this gospel apply to you? Where is Jesus waiting to make you free?
For more information, go to www.stjohnleadershipnetwork.org.
The Spirit World continues with Debbie Georgianni and Adam Blai. If you have a question for the show, call 877-757-9424 or email tsw@grnonline.com.
Well, this is our final segment of the live edition of the Open Forum bonus special for Labor Day here on the Spirit World. We have comments coming in pretty quickly, so we'll try to get to everybody. And we do have Rachel who's standing by. We're going to welcome her on air in just a moment. If you'd like to join the conversation quickly, you can't wait any longer. 877-757-9424. 877-757-9424. Squeeze your call in quickly. Okay, on Facebook, we had Wendy made some comments. It says, fantastic. Thanks for going live today. God bless everyone working behind the scenes. Happy Labor Day. In Trinidad, we spell labor with a U in it. LOL. I love that. Wendy, you are awesome. You're such a beautiful soul. Thank you for the kind comments. And it is just wonderful to be with everyone during this Labor Day weekend, a long weekend. Lots of people are traveling. By the way, we're praying for all of the beautiful souls in Minneapolis right now, and we're also praying for all those that are traveling this weekend. I understand the delays are horrible. People are really struggling. They can't get hotel rooms. They don't know where they're going to be going. They're not even sure they're going to get to their destination. People are missing connecting flights. Please pray that everyone gets to their destinations, and please pray that everybody keeps the peace, because I saw some verbal situations happening in the airport yesterday where people were really losing their patience, kicking things around and yelling, and it's not good. So let's pray for everybody that we just keep the temperature down and keep everybody calm. Okay, Tim, you're going to introduce our caller from Houston.
We have Rachel listening on the Guadalupe Radio Network in Houston. Rachel, you are on with Debbie and Adam.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi, thanks so much for taking my call.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you guys. Want to thank you for your really important ministry. I have sort of an image that comes to mind when I'm praying sometimes that I've never totally understood, and I wonder if you might be able to help me a little bit. Sometimes when I'm praying, I have an image come to mind of Mary telling me that she's wrapped me in her mantle. Mm-hmm. And I've read that phrase different places, but I'm not totally sure what it means. But that's something I feel the Lord is telling me quite a few times.
Well, I'd like to hear Deb's take, but my take on that would be it's protection. And so, her mantle is basically her cloak or her shawl, that she's having. So if she's wearing clothing and wrapping you in it, that means you're standing right next to her, and she would have to have her arm around you and have you tucked up next to her. And if you picture a mother with their child, and if the kid was leaning against mom's hip and she had her arm around and wrapped her cloak around the child to keep them warm, that's kind of a symbol of motherly protection. So that would be my take on it. What do you think, Deb?
So, Rachel, I understand you're a convert to the faith.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you were growing up, did you have a close relationship to the Blessed Mother?
Oh, no.
Exactly. And so do you kind of feel like maybe it's her way of sharing with you the fact that you are her daughter and she loves you so very much? I'm going to cry when I say this. And that she just wants to reassure you that she is there, and she wants you to be with her son for all of eternity. And she's your spiritual mother. And it's no different than how, and Rachel, you're a mom of two beautiful kids, which are now, they're grown now, but your children are beautiful. Wouldn't you do the same thing? Letting your kids know that your mom is always there?
Yeah. Yeah.
In my opinion, it has a lot to do with you also being a convert to the faith.
Yeah.
When you work your way into Holy Mother Church, I've always said this, and this is just my personal belief, but I've always said this because I've seen it. I think heaven responds in a very beautiful, loving, wonderful, intimate way for those that have absolutely worked their way into the church. So you're blessed, Rachel.
Oh, well, thank you. That's really helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I've seen it before, actually. Your story I've heard before, where people have said that they received a special, feeling or image or dream or something to know that they have this heavenly support. And so God bless you. You're a beautiful soul, and I'm just so happy that our Blessed Mother gave you that gift.
Oh, thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah, very cool. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, I've seen the same thing with people entering the church that are troubled with demonic stuff. Mm-hmm. They inevitably, Jesus really points them towards his mother. Mm-hmm. In terms of understanding and learning that relationship seems to be really important to God.
Yeah. Thank you, Rachel. Cool. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful Labor Day weekend with your wonderful family. Okay, we've got a quick question coming in from Carol from Houston on Guadalupe Radio Network. Carol, take it away.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. Oftentimes when I go to Mass, I see people praying the rosary during Mass or reading other literature and, not really focused on the Mass or actually just doing their own thing. Is that really appropriate during Mass?
It's certainly not. So, we've become lax in a lot of places in terms of socializing and looking at the phone and things like that. We need to remember that we're entering the house of God, that Jesus is present in a special way. And and that this is a time to worship God. This is the 1 hour a week that most of us give our full attention to God. So if he created us and he sent his son to die for us, hopefully we can give him an hour of our undivided attention. So
that's like chit-chatting and stuff like that. So you want to just focus and really, right. But you also talked about praying the rosary. I do know that some people finger the beads and pray the rosary to keep focus while they're at Mass.
Really? Okay. Because I've seen them do it before Mass and I've seen them do it after Mass. I just didn't realize during Mass,
Some people do. I've seen it a lot, especially the older generation. They'll have the rosaries in hand and they'll finger the rosary. And so I think it's a lot to do with just maintaining that focus. Wouldn't you say, Adam?
Yeah, it's whatever works for people, but certainly not around the consecration or heading up to communion. That's not the time to be focusing on the rosary.
Okay, thank you so much, Carol and Rachel and Seamus and Elizabeth and Christopher. You guys are awesome. You made this Labor Day special so wonderful here on the Spirit World. Next week, we're going to be talking about dogmas and doctrines. What's the difference? Okay, that'll do it. Thanks to the show team. Tim, you did a great job, and Lori and Carol as well. For Adam Blai, I'm Debbie Georgianni. Until next Saturday, have a beautiful and blessed week. We'll see you real soon.